Hi there, welcome back to our educational series. So today we're going to talk about one of the more controversial subjects, which is the idea of cork versus stelvin or screw tops, those new closures that are out there. Cork was used for years because at the time it was the best available component to use to properly seal bottles. Cork literally comes from cork trees, and there's a limited amount of those. But what that cork does, it's a permeable membrane that will actually swell when it comes into contact with the liquid. And that's why it's always so important to store the bottles horizontally, because as that liquid then comes in contact with the cork, it will swell the cork and provide more of a closure. Now there still is a little bit of transfer of air through that, which enables the wine to age a little bit, but in general, what it does is it provides a closure, and that's why we've used it for years. But what we found also is that there is a bacterial element sometimes in that cork that provides a negative quality to the wine. And essentially what we say is that that wine is corked. Now that term is oftentimes misused. It's applied to wines that may be cooked, that is, that the wine was stored at a heat level that it prematurely aged the wines. But when we say that, we would rather say that the wine indeed was cooked and not corked, if you will. The controversy that exists today is that through technology we've been able to create other devices that can seal the wine and prevent that transfer of air. Some of these are called stelvin, and there are screw tops. Alcoa has actually even created a glass closure that we see in a lot of Austrian wines that's beautiful and it looks good. But the main reason for this is that that cork element, right, that bacterial component, can negatively affect wines. Now some houses will spend quite a bit of money in technology and research to make sure that they're getting the best possible corks. Champagne houses in particular do quite a bit of work with that. But even in those cases, we do find wines that are negatively affected by the cork. One of the arguments to continue using it is that there's that tradition of opening wine, that there is that history of the ceremony, if you will, of opening bottles of wine. And I find that somewhat silly. I've always found the ceremony around wine is actually in drinking the product and not in opening it. So if some of these corks, and let's say it's somewhere between 4, some people say as high as 8, I think it's closer to 4 to 6% of bottles that have a cork in it may be negatively affected. And there are those who believe that that's an unacceptable margin of error. That if we use screw tops, we can eliminate that margin of error. And it's very, very rare, although it does happen, but it's very rare that those artificial closures can provide a negative quality to the wine. So in general, what they've done is to ensure that we're drinking cleaner wine. Now what we also know is that the bulk of wine is consumed within minutes of purchase. Most people are simply driving over to a liquor store, picking up a bottle of wine to drink that night, and are getting after it right away. So to age that wine in a screw top is actually not really affecting it because it's being consumed so quickly. What we're not clear of, however, is how do the wines age that are sealed with a screw top? And that's one of the things that we're finding. One of the best producers out there is a product called Pump Jack, and in 1997 they introduced a stelvin closure to their production. They did half in cork and half in stelvin, and what we found is that the wines have aged fairly consistently. There's actually a little bit of air that's always trapped inside the top of the bottle, but over a longer period of time we'll have a better understanding. My feeling is that most wines should move towards that cleaner closure. I would argue with that notion that there is a ceremony to opening the bottle. I don't find that to be true. As I said before, I find the ceremony is actually in drinking the product and not in opening it. But that's a decision you'll make for yourself. I hope that information is helpful to you, and most importantly that you're drinking good, clean wine. Cheers.